And eventually I pulled myself away from Final Fantasy so I could start the freaking broadcast. Wow. Oh, look. There's no fucking lights in here. Ah. That one. That'll work. Sure. Oh. Good morning. Good evening. Good afternoon. Whatever it is, wherever you are. And if it's your birthday, happy birthday. If it's not your birthday, happy birthday anyways. Just fucking pretend. Go crazy. Go try to get a free dessert at Chili's. Except for if you're the person who was watching for a few seconds and then stopped. And I can't help but to think, like, why? Why is it so often there's just the one person that comes in and watches for a few seconds and then stops? Not at any particular time. It's as if there's some kind of random little screening they do as, sort of a legal covering their own asses kind of thing, where it's like, here's the reason why this broadcast sucks today. Unfortunately, nothing they can ever write accounts for the fact that on this channel, and on the channel previously known as Begotten, Lost, shit, you find the only fucking hope for mankind, as sad as that is. And I know how sad it is that I'm the only hope. I'm me. I know. It's fucking pathetic. But nonetheless, the world is currently being guided, in large part, by absolute fucking morons. But I suppose there's hope. Yes, Mr. Conway, there were 2 people watching when the broadcast first started. I thought one of them might be you. And then there's that other person that just, like, if you come on later, they'll come on in the beginning just for a few, like 30 fucking seconds. And then just they go away. And then sometimes it'll be hours and then you'll wake up. Like if I start earlier. But anyways. You see, I think that I have made myself uniquely valuable to society by sheer coincidence, developing itself from pure weirdness. Okay? I am a fucking weird person. Plain and simple. I'm a science junkie and an art junkie. I'm a musician and a fucking technician. I'm a biologist and a mechanic. I'm a car guy and I'm a reef guy. I'm a computer guy and I'm a woodshop guy. I like technology, but I hate technology. And I've always been into astrophysics, but I've also always been into metaphysics. I've always been into history, the way it's taught, and alternate history, weird, crazy fucking theories. Sometimes the crazier the better, just for the fun of it, you know? And I am someone who has avoided fighting and been a voice of peace and been someone who stuck up for weak kids against bullies and sometimes entire gangs. And I never wanted to be a fighting type person, yet I'm kind of ridiculous when it comes to the fisticuffs. Even as old and out of shape as I am. I am a weird fucking person. You know, my fucking spine's broken in 3 places and I got arthritis like a son of a bitch. But I still work out every day. I have a plan to make millions of dollars while cleaning up the environment. But I'm so broke I can't pay my fucking bills. And I am someone who very much values small towns and homes and established life and settlement, and I've always just wanted to fucking have my own land and build my own house. Yet I've lived in 3 countries and fucking 4 states and lived, 20 different schools and moved over 50 times and wanted one thing, wound up a vagabond, basically. I wanted, this is going to sound cheesy and borderline pathetic, I wanted to be a one-woman guy my whole life. I wanted to wait until I was married to have sex with the woman I was going to spend the rest of my life with, and I wound up being a bit of a man whore. a bit of a male slut, if you will. A bit of a male slut. Not really, but yeah, sometimes. Let's just say when I was on the rebound, it was more like pinball, Ding 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 ding. Ah, okay. And I finally found a hole I'll stay in for a while. Wait, what? Sorry. But anyways, I don't know why I'm babbling on in this pointless tangent of self-reflection. I just think that I have arrived at some kind of unique perspective that seems to be way ahead of its time, yet at the same time, way overdue. You know? And what I want this video to be about is, of course, that, and some particular things that led up to it, that kind of got us where we are in this situation where there was almost a hope for Christianity, you know? Imagine if the Da Vinci Code 8 had come out in the absence of Fox News and the History Channel. You know? If the centrists had prevailed and the church had, continued to go after people like socialists and Ku Klux Klanists and far left and far right. There was a revival building in the 80s and even on into the early 90s. What if that was the wave that met with the idea that Christ and Mary were husband and wife? What if a section of faithful people could actually think that, hey, it didn't really mean anything bad? Oh. But you see, by the time the Da Vinci Code came out, by the time this idea started circulating, by the time it started being analyzed, we already kind of had our minds made up for us. Because these very informative people, usually claiming to be Jews that converted to Christianity, often from Canada, or from Poland, or from Russia, or from Belarus, or always with a story of where their family had just traveled from. And they were trying to go, well, they successfully did go from church to church as visiting ministers, selling a book or whatever. Often collecting donations for some sort of mission work. And, they like to explain things, those guys, they come and they're like, I used to be a Jew, so now, I know the Bible better than you do, so let me explain to you, my now fellow Christians, right? And one of the things that they got us talking about, the churches here, the non-denominational different churches here in the United States, was the Tetragrammaton. YHVH. And one of the claims that they made leading up to this was that Jesus Christ's name was Yeshua. And then they started claiming that YHVH, the Tetragrammaton, it's not really YHVH, but you know what I mean. They claim that it meant Yeshua. They claimed that the secret name of Jesus was the secret name of God. And they had proven once and for all that Jesus was Jesus. But he wasn't Jesus. He was Yeshua. But they never told us something very simple, which would have been kind of relevant. Yeshua means Joshua, not Jesus. You know why there's no name in Hebrew for Jesus? Because Jesus isn't a name. It's Gaelic. See, Jesus was not accepted as a Jew because they said, "Aren't you a Galilean and the son of a carpenter?" A Galilean. They spoke Gaelic because they were Gaels in Galilee. That's why they called them Galileans. And Jesus in Gaelic wasn't his name either. Jesus in Gaelic means I am. So now we've got a big problem. We have one name that isn't the name, and then we have another name that's Joshua, so that isn't the name. So what is the name that you're after? What are you left with? Well, the key in all that's been lost, both in translation and transgression, you see, there's been people for about 1,000 years. That's my contention anyway. For 1,000 years, they have basically destroyed this part of history. This has been the focus of every bit of bullshit and hoaxing. The key factor that could organize all the data into one unifying testament, that could actually draw a conclusion from everything that seems basically random as far as inconclusive things and hoaxes and just contradictory information that doesn't make any sense. And the one key that I find that remains even in the King James text is the differentiation between Christ and John the Baptist. Now, my contention is that you have a legacy of the original church founder that was Mary Magdalene, and you have wisdom and words of hers that were included so that they could be covered up, essentially. And the manner in which they did this was by creating an additional character and then overlapping it with Mary and John the Baptist. So you take away this whole of Mary and John the Baptist, you choose some of it to become John the Baptist, and you choose some of it to remain as what would have been Mary, but that's now you're going to call it Jesus, and then Jesus and John the Baptist are going to be opposing prophets. And then we'll make sure in good Roman fashion that we send different little cults and sects here and there different information regarding this so that it can be fermented throughout history. But the key is in the word that's used to denote God's form of their interaction. The Holy Spirit descended as a dove on Jesus when John the Baptist was baptizing Jesus. The thing is, John the Baptist's name was Jonas. Jonas. A dove in Hebrew is spelled Jonas. So you have this name, Jonah, Johannes, John, Jonas, Shona, Jonas in Greek, Jonah with the whale. Indicating the key right there. Once someone is given more advanced knowledge in esoterics, say if this was sort of a Freemason type thing, this would be higher up in the degree. They would learn more things, right? And they would realize that this has greater meaning to it. Now, just speaking hypothetically, it could have been that John was baptizing Mary. It could have been. And this would be the thing that they would most want to cover up. Mary baptizing Jesus. Mary baptizing John. And the spirit of I am entering John. When Mary baptized him. But suffice to say, we have older, non-apocryphal texts that date around the time of the oldest pieces of the Bible, at least of the New Testament, that give credence to the idea that it was in fact Mary Magdalene and John the Baptist who started the church. It was about a history of teachings that's much more in depth of a story than a guy wandering around a couple of towns in the desert. There's a much bigger story that has been split apart and kept from humanity. And the unifying factor, the motive, if you will, is chauvinism. The idea that men need to be in charge, the idea that men are in charge, the idea that men are superior. And now, I made a claim before the 2016 election season started that I would bend all of reality to teach this lesson to the people that were watching that had doubted me. I do not have access to ancient scrolls. I don't have the ability to prove this through an archaeological dig. But I asked God to show the world that it was true. And God showed the world that it was true. That chauvinists from the East, people who usurp religion, conspire to keep women from power and influence. They've done it for thousands of years, and they've been doing it in a way that has basically conquered most of the world. And what used to define us as the West was that we had this thing called chivalry. And now that sounds like some silly arcane term, and that's kind of weird to me, that chivalry should be such a obsolete thing, when it's what made America great originally. But then, at the same time we were learning about all these different things where we didn't have to have faith in Christianity anymore. We didn't have to have faith in our works. Our knowledge could become so perfect. We would just be the perfectly knowledgeable Christians. So many people got seduced into that trap. And at the same time, people were becoming knowledgeable in other ways, knowledgeable about shameful things in America's past. And these things were being framed in such a way as to portray America as a place where nothing but those shameful things had ever happened. So you had two different sides in this country, both getting smarter on bullshit. See, it's not that knowing reduces faith. It's that the lust for knowledge can cost you all of it. Now, as for me, the key to my great wisdom has been not seeking it. God has given me whatever wisdom I have needed, and I have simply set myself up into positions where wisdom was required. And in letting go of a lust for knowledge that I don't need to know, I have reserved faith in that God will provide whatever wisdom I need to know as I need to know it, to help whoever it is that I'm helping, and whatever mysteries they're trying to reveal for themselves. That's been the case for me since I was about 14 years old. But we've had this wave of pseudo-intellectualism bombarding us with fake history that is designed to do nothing else, okay? Not designed to make us more productive scientists, more productive members of society, nothing like that, okay? These pseudo-intellectual documentaries and, pseudo-intellectual documentarianism, yeah, let's just call it that, has aimed specifically at religion. The only stories they will tell are ones that aren't found in the Bible, that contradict the Bible, or they'll tell you about how everything you think about the Bible is false. And they're not thoroughly researched facts, but they're very well put together documentaries. And then they give, little stamps in the corner like National Geographic, so you know everything they say is true. Oh. I like National Geographic. I used to have a ton of National Geographic magazines, but did it ever occur to you that National Geographic, like any other institution, is susceptible to the infiltration of Russian spies, Russian agents, whose number one goal is to propagandize people? It's not to steal they don't need to steal any information from us. Their priority is to give us all the information we have. Owns what now? National Geographic. Wow, really? National Geographic? Oh my goodness. So I'm kind of I'm not sure what the hell is going on here. That's where the cat's sleeping. Or trying to. Apparently Dingo's having some sort of interesting, possibly erotic dream. And she's just nuzzled up onto his giant penis. Relatively. Okay, so moving on. That's just extra special. Morning, Carlos. Oh shit. So the thing is, in all of our advancement on both sides, the right and the left, we need to really look at this. We need to really look at the so-called knowledge. I mean, how many different documentaries were there of people putting clay on a fucking prosthetic skull and saying, this is what Jesus really looked like? How's it going? Welcome, alleged new person. Please forgive the skepticism. Fuck no. What do you think a cuss is? You see, the thing is, I speak in a language that indicates that I am knowledgeful and proud of my Gaelic heritage. And in Gaelic, the word fuck means smite. Now forgive me if I don't acquiesce to your brainwashing. I ain't got fucking time for that. But anyways, I'm sure it's very realistically probable that, this broadcast that never gets any viewers is just happening to be seen by someone new, and they have nothing better to do. This one person who has joined us in God knows how long, this one person came here just to critique my fucking language as if I'm not a fucking adult broadcasting in the middle of the fucking night. How about you get some sleep, little baby? Anyone who thinks a grown man should watch their language has serious fucking personal problems. You need to stop with the breathing. Yeah. Then how could I be angry? Don't confuse this with anger. Me telling an obnoxious fool that they're an obnoxious fool and why they're an obnoxious fool doesn't mean that I'm angry. Oh, so is now your contention that Christ never got angry? Do you think that Christ never got angry at ignorant fucking hypocrites like you? Have you ever read the Bible? You see, people like you would be amusing to me if it weren't for the fact that you are the bane of the existence of all humanity. Your exact frame of mental dysfunction is the reason why there's red tides in Florida just fucking killing wildlife by the millions. Yeah, it's your fault. People like you. Just like you. I know who the fuck you are. Stop pretending. Fucking douchebag. Anyways. You've never read... Block this fucking moron. You've never read the Bible in your life. Okay? You think anger is forbidden. Anger isn't a good thing. I am that I am. And there is nothing more righteous than my anger. Now, I really don't have time to stop on the side of the highway and teach an infant how to breathe. Your parents have already cast you out. Your nation has failed you. There is no cradle left to hold you. If you want to catch up to me, You need to build yourself some method of transport that can arrive with the quickening. Fortunately, I've been laying the framework for years. Go off and learn something from the encyclopedia I've provided for foundational knowledge before you commit suicide of your soul by offending me personally. But anyways. Yep. People just like that have basically ruined the whole world for everyone else. And that right there is one of the ways that they do it. By talking about things that they know nothing of. Was Jesus not angry at those who were lusting after children when he told them to gouge out their own eyes? Was Jesus not angry at the people exchanging money for slaves in the temple because you couldn't offer slaves, but you could offer money at the temple? And as for the Bible, and as for anger itself, God was angry at Moses for not committing genocide. Don't ever claim to understand my ways. Oh look, we've had a hiccup. Conway and Carlo just lost it. Let's see how long it takes them. Anyways. So you've got people, on the one hand, talking about history as if they were there. Talking about layers of mud as if they created some sort of a flawless calendar. I mean, granted, you can get a good estimate of the order of things, how they died. You can't get any good information on the order of things, how it lived. And you sure can't get any definite information on how long any of those periods are until you have basically sat and recorded things for 1/10 of the sample size. So if you're going to look for something and claim that it's 10 million years old, you need to have at least observed for 1,000,000 years. But these people are making basically the most advanced, complex campaign of religious persecution ever undertaken on the evidence of a less than 0.02% sample size. But then, of course, don't get angry. Can't get angry. Can't even act like you're angry. I don't know if he knows. I mean, I just assume that's just another screen name from the same troll. I don't really think I've ever actually been, like, actually angry. I've been a little irritated here and there. But if I was angry, this laptop wouldn't be sitting in front of me anymore. When I get angry, you'll know. But, you know, it's just like a little demon to come on here every single time. I'm just trying to make a point. Every time I'm trying to make a fucking point, you gotta come in here and try to get me all defensive. And I gotta sit here and be annoyed with the fact that I can't just fucking smash your fucking skull. That's not anger. That's instinct. You're pure fucking evil, and I know it. Ain't no goddamn random person just came in here. Yeah, hello. Yeah. Fuck's sake. The only thing dumber than that motherfucker is anyone who would believe it. But as for me, anger. Oh. No. See, anger involves an elevated heart rate for me. I can get angry, like, perceivably, without actually experiencing what human beings know as anger. To me, that's kind of my happy place. It's my comfort zone. Because I've spent so much of my life there. In fact, I often reflect on how, man, if shit was going too well, I would just be unsatisfied. Because I wouldn't have anything to rage against. But for me, it's not a matter of bitching and moaning, you know? A lot of people, they're not happy unless they have something to complain about. That's not how I operate. For me, it's about having something to overcome. Now, as for that little dumbass who just keeps on poking his head in here, always with a different fucking strategy on how he's gonna piss me off, I don't give a fuck about him anymore. The only thing that I'm concerned with regarding him is to make sure that he knows he isn't even a man compared to me. That's it. That's the only thing that even slightly concerns me. I just want to make him feel butthurt and inadequate. Because he is so very inadequate. I think I do a pretty good job. Don't you? But anyway, speaking of butthurt and inadequate, it looks like Trump has once again succumbed to his butthurtness and found another very important member of his staff to be inadequate. Dan McGahn. Dan McGahn. I just like saying that like that. Dan McGahn will now be ending his little career as White House counsel. Dan McGahn is no longer White House counsel. And if you don't know why this is so funny, why this is so wonderful, why this is so priceless, Trump has been trying to basically act like the Attorney General and the White House counselor are his personal fucking lawyers. And they're not. They're the lawyers of the White House. They're the lawyers of the executive branch. They serve the Constitution at the pleasure of the president, but they serve the Constitution. So Donald Trump is letting them the fuck go. He's gotten basically told no by Don McGahn. I won't draft a resignation demand for Jeff Sessions or Rosenstein. So he's asked for Don McGahn to go. Now, I think the analogy has already been made, but just in case you haven't heard anyone make it, I'll go ahead and make one again. Firing the White House counsel it's kind of like I don't know. I'm still too distracted by the sudden lack of viewership. Gotta check something out, actually. Let's see if it's still accessible. Oh, still accessible. But that's a first for Conway blocking somebody and then the other two people drop. Okay. Y'all blocked him and then fucking just went down from 2 to 0. I'm like, what the hell? And I fell dead trying to think of an analogy because I was trying to remember their analogy. And then I forgot the fucking premise of the analogy. And I was like, oh shit. And then the headline I see when I look up: did President Donald Trump really color in the American flag wrong? Oh, look, now we have both viewers are back. All of a sudden. So what happened? Did you get disconnected, or? That's fucking weird. That was weird, man. Weird stuff. Wild, weird, wacky, crazy stuff. But yeah. You know, Donald Trump's trying to fire Don McGahn for giving him fucking good legal advice, basically. So, you know. You got your fucking cars on fire. Excuse me. So, your car is on fire. And, you just, like, tell your mechanic to go fuck himself. You know? Your house is on fire. Let's start shooting the firemen as they come try to put out the fire. You know? Oh, wait. Crops are ready to harvest. Let's fire all the Mexicans. No. Was that racist of me to acknowledge the fact that Mexicans harvest all our fucking crops for us? It's just a fact, people. It's a fact. Anyways. So Donald Trump wants to fire his lawyer because he's giving him advice that's true. You know? That's like, you know, you take your car for an oil change. Go back to cars. I love car analogies. And then you go drive it into the back of a fucking 18-wheeler. And then you blame the guy who did the oil change. No, that's still not quite. But anyways. So, we're getting closer and closer to a genuine standoff here. Unfortunately, the Republicans in Congress, namely fucking Lindsey Graham of all people, coming out and saying that, yeah, Trump should fire Sessions. And it's really kind of scary to think about how this massive amount of criminal activity just can't be let go. It can't be swept under the rug. You know, you don't just fucking let people committing all kinds of goddamn crimes. You know, like, this motherfucker here coming and complaining because I got potty mouthed and it's offended his virgin ears while he's on YouTube. First of all, to make a comment on YouTube, you're supposed to have a channel. To have a fucking YouTube channel, you're supposed to be over fucking 18 fucking years old, aren't you? You fuck. But you ain't fucking going and criticizing the people who are destroying the fucking world. You're gonna come give me a hard time. Oh, what a man you are. I'm sure the girls are just lining up to have your fucking puppies. Oh, did I just insult the canine species? Anyways. Right? There we go, even better. Go to a mechanic. He says you need brake pads. You tell him to go fuck yourself. And then you just go slam into the back of something. And then it's that mechanic's fault for telling you you needed brake pads. Ow. Shit. My foot's asleep. Oh, man. So, knowledge, facts, you know, data. Not necessarily true, not necessarily false, just filler. Things that you need to sort out whether they're true or whether they're false. Some things you may do a more effective job than with others. But all of these things, the more you learn, the more you have to sort out and process through, the more you intellectualize faith, the weaker it becomes in a lot of ways. Now, that's not as simple as saying, you know, people who don't think deeply about things have an easier time of faith. That's not necessarily true. It's not the amount of things that you know, it's the quality of what you know. Somebody who knows very little but knows good things is going to have strong faith. Somebody who knows very little but has been told something that's shaken their faith is going to have their faith shaken. The more you intellectualize faith, the more complex the data set becomes. But when it comes down to faith itself, the fact that you have so much to sort through, when it comes time to, in those crucial moments when you need to have faith to take action, then you're too busy thinking. And maybe those crucial moments when you're trying to resist a temptation to, you know, go get drunk or cheat on your wife or, you know, cut off this person in traffic. That over-intellectualizing brain wants to rationalize and come up with excuses. So, the more you know, the more difficult it becomes to have faith. Unless a tradition of guidance exists. Now, it's been made pretty clear to me, and I've made it pretty clear that it's my understanding and my point of view, that that tradition that mankind once had has been lost. And the knowledge that supersedes all of the little factoids that bring someone to doubt that's been buried over the years. People just don't have it anymore. And I've been trying to not provide some sort of concise, cataloged, resource for it. I've been trying to make sort of a reality documentary of the exploration of these things while being distracted by kittens and fish tanks and whatnot. So anyways, when people started going out of their way to find scriptures to suit their phobias, the time for revival was over. And the 20 years of silence had begun. In that time period, faith was lost. Those who professed to be of faith were blind to the truth. And little by little, the very name Christian, the very word faithful, the very category of religion, any religion is now considered to be some sort of backwards concept. That's not because the belief structure itself is inherently backwards. That's because there have been people actively trying to both infiltrate religions and also use religions for personal gain. And what you need to understand is that these two things have been coordinated. The con artists and the collusionists. It's the same way the mafia works with Russian intelligence. And now you have this network of evangelical Orwellianism that has nothing to do with Christianity, has nothing to do with anything Christ taught. It's about blind belief. some sort of magical feeder bar you get to hit if you repeat a phrase. It's a happy thought that if you believe, you get to go to heaven. And if you clap your hands and say, I believe in fairies, you'll get to make America great again. And these people saying no Russian collusion can't see the forest because all the damn trees are in the way. Sorry, just having a little daydream. I don't think I should tell you what it's about. But let's just say the insanity defense applies. Because the sane part of me is doing everything it can to refrain. Which means that it's not going to happen unless the crazy wins. Oh, but everybody knows what that's like. Everybody got that crazy. Most people's crazy ain't as strong as my crazy. I got some serious crazy. And these people act like they want my crazy to come out. But they don't. They really don't. Because one thing I don't think you understand about my crazy is how thoroughly ingenious it would be if it were unleashed. Oh, the perfection of planning. That would have to exist for me to even bother. But it's such a distant thing. It's such a laughable thing. It's such a purely intellectual thing. Because my crazy can't win. You see, whereas most people have bullshit and egotism to rationalize themselves with, I go out at night and I see the stars move. I talk shit because I'm a talking head on a fucking fake TV screen and I need something to say, so I talk shit. Because it's fun. And I like fire. But the idea that I should have to lift a finger, other than these two that I snap, to make whatever happen. Oh, I'm sure they have, dearie. But it's like, you know, these people are like fucking unarmed drug dealers, okay? And they're trying to rob me. And if I complain about it, if I beat the shit out of them, they're going to call the cops. If I threaten them, what are they going to do? They're fucking mobsters, okay? They're fucking Russian goddamn agents. They are part of an assault on my country. It is as if they were sitting on the other side of a fucking border, firing rounds at me and my family. That is how I see this situation. What are they going to do? Call the police and say this person doesn't like all the illegal shit that we're doing to him? Give me a fucking break. You see, if they were to do that, they must realize how much I would relish the opportunity to have my defense counsel make a motion for discovery. I'm sure they would relish. I'm sure they understand that I would relish the opportunity to present my evidence before a jury of my peers. Oh yeah. Let some little fucking minor bullshit that I ain't gonna serve nothing for take down their whole scheme? Please. Oh, but Hillary. You people are sticking up for a fucking mobster. They don't like me because I'm a specialist in fixing the very wounds that divide this country. And that's exactly what I would tell my arresting officer. So you know exactly what I gotta tell you fucking people that keep my shit from getting any actual viewers, except for these dumbasses. Well, this dumbass who pretends to be multiple dumbasses. Here's what I gotta tell you. Fuck you. See? Keep you crazy where crazies do. You know? Revenge is a dish best served combustible. I mean, wait a minute, that's not how that goes. Revenge is a dish best served with a Molotov cocktail? Wait, no, that's not an actual cocktail, is it? That's not an actual dish, is it? Kind of getting hungry talking about it, though. Let's see this thing. Hold on, I gotta see this thing. They gotta complain about my curse words. Meanwhile, mister, I could fucking shoot somebody on the goddamn middle of the street. You know, and let me just say this. I say shit on my YouTube channel because it's fucking outlandish and I like taunting the people who can't say anything about it, etc., etc. Right? If I was running for president or, like, being president, no, I wouldn't. I would actually refrain from using profanity. Oh. Meanwhile, you got the same people trying to justify suppressing my channel are responsible for electing this fuckerama.
Right, President Trump made a stunning claim. This was at a meeting at the White House, a dinner with evangelical supporters this
Morning,
week.
Joey.
Again, the doors were closed, the cameras were not rolling, he did not think it was being recorded, and he told them behind closed doors that if Republicans lose in the midterm elections, there will be violence. This is exactly what he said. People say I'm not voting because the president doesn't like Congress. It's not a question of like or dislike. It's a question that they will overturn everything that we've done, and they will do it quickly and violently. And violently, he says, there is violence. When you look at Antifa, these are violent people. Now, obviously, threw in that last sentence about Antifa, but it's not clear whether he was talking about them the whole time or whether he was just saying Democrats will be violent if they win. Let's bring back Harry Etten, Tulu Olaranapa, and John Avalon. Tulu, first to you. Again, this is the President of the United States saying that in a peaceful election, the likes of which we see in America every 2 years, if his party loses, there will be blood. Literally.
Yeah, this is the president. You can say he's politicking. He's basically trying to stir up the emotion of fear in his voters because he believes that fear is more motivational for voters to turn out than hope or than aspirations of what he's going to do or how he's going to advance an agenda. He wants people to be fearful that
dignity.
Democrats are going to take something away from
Oh, wait.
them. He talked about on the
Respect.
campaign trail, if the Democrats win, they're going to take away your Second Amendment. They're going to allow ICE, they're going to abolish.
Godfather, is it better to be respected or fear? You're fake news!
ICE and allow undocumented immigrants to flow across the border and start, committing crime in your neighborhood. So the president's trying to gin up fear, and this was an example of going pretty far to the extreme of saying that there's going to be violence and predicting violence in the streets if his candidates do not win in the upcoming election in November. It is unheard of to see a president sort of predict violence after a peaceful election, but it's not unheard of in the Trump era where fear is a motivating political weapon.
John, I see so much to dive into here. The idea that he did this behind closed doors, that tells you something. That should tell all of us something. That the president is fear-mongering purposely, but not publicly. And he doesn't want to do it publicly because he knows that it could be challenged. And he did it to evangelicals. And there was another line, I believe, in that where he said, you might want to mention this in the pulpit. He was telling people, bring this to the people, bring this to the pulpit. The fact that he is fear-mongering and promising violence if Democrats win, what does that tell us about how nervous he actually is about what the Democrats, whether they will sweep in the midterms?
Well, it clearly is a sign of anxiety, but also, I think, a sense that people vote out of fear, not love. What's different here is, you say purposefully but not publicly. He also makes these comments to people of faith. These are ministers. These are evangelicals. And he's not using fear in the way that politicians sometimes do. These policies are going to be antithetical to your beliefs. They'll be hostile. This is outright promises and threats of violence. So let's not normalize that. This is a decided moving of the goalposts from a president of the United States in private to a faith-based community, saying that there will be violence, presumably against them and him and his administration, if the Democrats win. That is a dangerous new look.
Democrats are a physical threat to
That's
you,
correct.
Which is a strange campaign platform. And Harriet, what's interesting is, I don't think it's one he needs when he's dealing with evangelicals. This is a group that was a tremendous source of support for him in the election. He did very well, and it's been a tremendous source of support for his 20 months or so inside the White House.
No, but I think it just tells you where his head's at, right? That this is the only game he knows how to play. And when he's backed into a corner, he starts to say things that normal politicians and normal Americans wouldn't do. He starts to bring up conspiracy theories. You go back to 2016, remember when he thought he was going to lose? He was like, I don't believe the election results. If I lose, we should challenge everything.
Mm-hmm.
Here we have a similar idea going on where we're taking something that's completely out of the realm of normal political conversation. We're bringing it forefront because he's afraid that he might lose and he wants the Jews to go up.
And in a room in the White House, he quoted the quote I'll put on the mantle of that room, which is a quote to John Adams. He quoted the prayers at the top. But the bottom line of that quote is, may none but wise and honest men govern here. There's nothing wise or honest about taking demonization of your political opponents to the level of threatening violence. Speaking of the presidency.
I'm so glad you're making that point. As an aside, he also told them that he got rid of the Johnson Amendment, which was this 1954 provision that, was about tax law and whether or not faith-based organizations and churches.
What the hell? Hold on. Just thought I had time to make myself a curd, for fuck's sake. So, how are you doing, Joey? How's the new gerb? You're supposed to be telling me what kind of new exciting cars you've been working on, or telling the audience. Why was the SR-71 invulnerable? Well, to really know that, you'd have to know exactly how much bullshit exists in the aeronautics industry as a whole. Let's just say the SR-71 Blackbird is really, 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 really fucking fast. I mean, it's fast. Oh, yeah. Range Rovers, Jaguars, BMWs, Mercedes, Porsches, you know, European shitboxes. Really? Did you see the, I don't know if you saw my plug yesterday, but I'll go ahead and plug it again while you're here. On Speed Academy, Speed Academy, yeah, Speed Academy. The YouTube channel Speed Academy. They have this new video that they posted, I think yesterday, of like a dozen track-tuned built fucking S2000s. Just they should have taken, as you know, like they should have just uploaded 6 hours of footage of that shit if possible. You know, like just. Got a lot of onboard. Old boy knows his little track pretty well too. Shit, excuse me, I forgot to mute it. I'm so sorry. Blowing my fucking nose on. I'm so sorry. I usually actually manage to mute that. Jeez. I blame the S2000s. See, I start thinking about the fucking S2000s and just. Like, okay. I would never want to race S2000s unless they just started remaking a new S2000 like I was describing, right? And they were, you know, like a cheap, like designed to be like a Miata, you know? In fact, I think they should make them more they could really they could change very little and do themselves a great service, you know, making the new MX-5 look more than it, you know, like more, not more anything in specific, just more, you know, like the S2000 looked more than the old Miata, right? They just need to have a little bit more than the old S2000, but not quite as much as the new MX-5. Like I said, just transpose a little bit of that new Civic headlight and taillight configuration onto the old S2000 frame. Add some Ace 2 body structure and make a factory permanent hardtop coupe and make a convertible that's optional. And just make it as basic as you can fucking make it. Just as basic as you can make it. You know, put fun stuff. Put a nice stereo and climate control and all that shit, and you know, all the sound deadening and all that in the convertible. Okay. But they could just take some of the same old fucking stamps, integrate the Ace body structure in there, they could use the same fenders and hood. They could probably use the same windshield. They could probably use the same windows. Probably not the same door panels. You would want to update the rear a little bit because there's more advanced aerodynamic knowledge that affects how the air flows around towards the rear wheels from the front. Whereas the old S2000 is just just one long body panel. I like the one long body panel personally, but you don't see any cars like that anymore. Well, depending on the area, if it's not close by the other shop, he could always consider expanding one day. But don't talk to him about your old job. Don't talk to him about the new stuff. Stay focused on what he wants you doing. You know. Now, if you get to a point where you got too much business right there, start keeping an eye on local listings of properties that are right next to that fucking place where he's at. And just, if you see an opportunity for him to expand, present it to him. But wait until you're established there, and wait until it's seeming like they need a bigger facility. And by doing a separate, not exotic but just import focused place, he could, perhaps his revenue, but also provide the extra facility space to take large waves of customers, like when he needs something done priority, instead of having 5 guys to choose from or 3 guys to choose from, he could have fucking 20 guys to choose from. Okay, let's all stay overnight and get this done. You know what I'm saying? But don't go pining about Honda to him. Don't your new boss, When I gotta make some fucking coffee? Oh look, all my viewers dropped off at once. Again. it had 4 people watching, and it dropped to 2. And it dropped to 0. Joey's still here. Still says 0. That's fascinating. Cha cha cha. Since you're listening, Joey, thought I might treat you with that little song I wrote. So yeah, I think all in all they should make 3 different versions of the S2000. One should look as close to the old one as possible and be as bare bones as possible. You know, like designed to bolt shit onto. Basically. A platform. Then they need, of course, a tuned version of that. Both of those should be non-convertibles. Okay? Oh, if only I could fucking manage their computer engineering team for a day and actually design the subframe of the subframe, if you will. I'm pretty sure their robots could build what I have in mind. And it would be the most rigid fucking little car chassis ever, you know? It'd be very safe, too. Anyways. Sort of laying out the flat spots more like concrete than metal panels. Basically, not just integrating steels of multiple strengths within the structure, but actually integrating composite resins within that. Similar to the way I use them to augment my the secret parts of my other inventions. I won't be specific. But actually, it applies to quite a few things. The way they can augment long-term rigidity as well as provide impact resistance and rollover resistance. Be very interesting. If only I had the means to do the experiment myself. But anyways, so 2 S2000s with that, and then 1 convertible with all the luxuries. You know? And then the convertible will have the same mounting points for add-ons and stuff as the hot model for people to get factory accessories or aftermarket body kits or whatever, that kind of thing. And I'm just looking at the new Miata right now, which can't really see. See, they just made the new Miata look as much like an S2000 as they could, while it still kind of looks like a Miata. So all they really got to do to the S2000 is fucking update the headlights and put a little bit of that, not those shapes as far as the little front vents and stuff goes, but the new Honda Civics. Oh, the badass 2000. She's a beaut. Lindsey Graham says, Trump called me after the McCain tribute. And I almost want to hear the propaganda that he's going to be spouting in this little interview about how Trump this and Trump that. It's fucking shameful. On the one hand, you're giving your tearful tribute to John McCain. On the other hand, you're going on CNN to run defense for Trump's fucking insult to that man. Insulting that man in his dying days. For what? Because he's a traitor? And McCain doesn't like traitors? Sure seems like something McCain and I have in common. But of course, now McCain and I have nothing in common. Because he is General Martok. He is roaming around the galaxy in a Klingon battle cruiser. Because he can. Oh, but Trump said he did a fantastic job in Puerto Rico. How about that? They didn't know about 2,900 people that fucking died. But they did a fantastic job, according to Trump. What's this about?
So the progressive wing of the Democratic Party and the Trump wing of the Republican Party, they both won big on primary night in Florida in the governor's race there, which sets up an election day showdown that could have far-reaching implications for each party in November and beyond. Joining us now is New York Times White House correspondent, CNN political analyst Maggie Haberman, who's broken 12 stories in the last
12 hours.
12 hours, no. So thanks for being with us today. The primary results last night were fascinating. Right? And you look at Florida, and there is no candidate that President Trump, I think, is prouder of supporting than Ron DeSantis, who is now the Republican nominee from that state. Kellyanne Conway just spoke about this moments ago. Let's listen to what she said.
I can't think of a candidate in this country who's leaned in more to the presidential endorsement than Ron DeSantis. He was down 20 points, won by 20 points, a true 40-point swing, but he took that endorsement from the president and he wore it very proudly. He incorporated it in his paid media campaign. He talked about it, and he's indicating to the people of Florida he will be a reliable supporter of the Trump agenda of lower taxes and fewer regulations, all the while respecting the states and local communities in the way that they are administering to the needs of their citizenry.
Look, it's obvious that the president's endorsement helps in a Republican primary. It's obvious it helps the president's image of himself that it is successful. We just don't know what it means in a general election.
Right, look, it was always going to mean more in a primary. But to be clear, as Trump has done this sort of less, now not so hostile, just takeover of the Republican Party, it is a mark, I think, of pride for him, given the pushback that he faced in his own primaries and the difficulties that he had leading up to his nomination convention in making sure that he was going to be the nominee, that he can sort of wave a magic wand and look at the effect that it has, especially because in the case of DeSantis, a lot of his advisors did not want him going in. They had tried to hold him back for a while. It was one of those instances where he did what he wanted to do at the end of the day, and hence says, look, see, I was right. It is definitely a feather in his cap, given that he has tried to influence these primaries and remake the party in his image. However, to your point, there is an equal and opposite effect, and there is such a thing as negative polarization in terms of politics, and you can see that as many votes as people supporting Trump gain, they risk losing it on the other side. And you saw that energy, especially on the progressive left, in the Democratic primary in Florida. This was a surprise win for Gillum, who was clearly trending that way, but surpassed expectations. And that does say something about energy heading into the fall on the Democratic side, and that does say something about, again, an equal and opposite force against what Trump can do.
And then behind the scenes, how is President Trump feeling heading into the midterms? Because obviously in public he acts quite bullish, but then in private, as we've been discussing, there was this leaked audio of a closed-door meeting with evangelicals, no cameras, but some participant leaked the audio of President Trump resorting to fear-mongering tactics, saying if Democrats win, there'll be violence, and suggesting that they perhaps spread that message at the pulpit. That tells you somebody who's quite nervous about what's going on.
Remember, we last heard this, or who at least is willing to do anything to try to excite his own people, right? We last heard about that potential violence around Donald Trump's nomination in July of 2016, when some of his supporters, I think it was mostly Roger Stone, but perhaps a couple of others, were talking about the threat of violence if Donald Trump was denied the nomination after he had won all of those primaries. Sure, you are going to have people who are going to be upset, and there are going to be real arguments about fairness of process if Donald Trump had lost it. But saying there is going to be violence, look at this dangerous for you outcome that you're facing. This is not a new tactic for the president, but it still is really striking to hear a president saying it. This is not at Trump anymore.
And you've known him for a long time. He knows what he's saying.
Yes, he knows exactly what he's saying.
He's choosing these words specifically and carefully and for a reason.
Yes, and look, he has been warned repeatedly that there are problems with that kind of language. He doesn't care. It is where he wants to go. It is what he thinks is going to have the most impact. He bases a lot of his actions on shock, and we've seen this over and over. So this isn't a surprise, but he doesn't have a whole lot of other bags of tricks, because even in a great economy, they are still facing a potential loss of the House. There are some Democrats who are feeling more bullish about the Senate than they had been. They are facing, it's not definite, they are facing the risk of a Democratic wave. And so he doesn't have a whole lot of tricks in his bag to try to move against it. This is always one that he resorts to.
Okay, Attorney General Jeff Sessions and his fate. We've heard that, obviously the president continues to criticize him publicly, but we've also heard now that he is speaking with his top aides and lawyers, personal lawyers, about firing Jeff Sessions. What do we think his longevity?
So he's been doing that for a year. There's really not a change. Since last July, when he actually got a resignation letter from Jeff Sessions, that he then got back from Jeff Sessions and undid because he was warned that this was going to be a disaster. Firing Jeff Sessions has been a hot stove that he has not wanted to touch, and he has known that he can't do, because the last time that he touched a hot stove was firing James Comey, and he got Mueller. So in some ways, Mueller has actually led to job protection for Jeff Sessions. The firing of Comey has led to job protection for Jeff Sessions. That said, it's a dysfunctional relationship. It has been for some time, and so you have Republicans who now recognize that this might not be sustainable this way. Maybe we can make a change after November. However, for all the times that Lindsey Graham says that, I'm not really certain who he has in mind as the replacement, because there is still going to be an uphill battle on confirmation. This has been the issue for the president the whole time, is getting new cabinet members approved. That would be very much the case with Jeff Sessions, especially depending on how he left. We keep hearing that Jeff Sessions is getting tired of it. We've heard that repeatedly too. As two top Trump advisors has said to me, he wants to fire Jeff Sessions every day. This has not changed. And so there are days when he has gotten closer to it than others. But I think that you are just going to see a status quo heading into November.
The one change really is the language that Lindsey Graham and some other senators have chosen to use, which opens up a different type of window. I don't know if it's an August-September window or a November-December window. Those are two very different things.
Correct.
We'll see.
I don't think it's an August-September window. I think it is about greasing the skids heading into the fall. I don't think that was about the president's itchy trigger finger right now.
Let's talk about someone who's been in the middle of these discussions, or at least was, because I don't know how much he's talking with the president these days at all, which is White House counsel Don McGahn.
He's not talking to the president very much.
Well, that says a little bit. Axios is reporting this morning that it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when Don McGahn leaves the White House, which is actually something that CNN and others have been reporting to an extent for a while, too. Axios makes it seem more imminent. You know, Maggie, you obviously, the New York Times had that blockbuster reporting and that McGahn had been talking at length with the special counsel. Where is this relationship?
This relationship is basically in the past in terms of being a relationship that coexists in the White House. We had heard that McGahn was likely / expected to leave after the Kavanaugh hearings, assuming that he does get nominated, or does get cleared and Senate approved, because then he will feel like he has left his mark, and that will be really what he was there for, in part, was to steer these judicial appointments through. But there is no real relationship. Emmett Flood has been talked about as a replacement. I'm not positive that that's actually going to happen. Emmett Flood is currently handling the Mueller probe. He was the replacement for Ty Cobb, internally dealing with that. But the president's two favorite punching bags have been Jeff Sessions and Don McGahn, and I think you have seen both of them tire of it. McGahn certainly, I think, believes he has done all he can do at this point.
All right, now you have a minute.
So, Mr. Cohen. Laney, cut it out. Fucker. Mr. Cohen, on his little plea deal thing, it basically says that just keep in mind, yeah, you don't have to talk about this anymore, except for when we do this racketeering case. That's what it says. And, you know, I've said over and over again, little Russian Satanists, it doesn't really matter. This isn't an accomplishment. Okay? There is no other world other than that which I open up. And I have opened up this world to test you. This is a test that you're failing. See, you could be helping me. You could be celebrating. But instead, we have the fuckery. And is it affecting anything? certainly affecting whether or not you and your brethren are redeemed. But it seems as though the whole Hillary losing is going to turn out for the best because this is about a broader racketeering investigation. Looks like that's going to turn out true. Now, as I previously confessed, I was shooting plenty of videos trying to be confident about Hillary going to win. Just because I felt like that was the normal human thing to do. But I'd said plenty of times, when Donald Trump would say the election was rigged, I said the only people that it was rigged, well, the only person that it was rigged for was him, by the Russians. But you see, based on previous experience and just out of sheer optimism, I really did think that Hillary Clinton was going to win. Because Obama had overcame the rigging of the Diebold machines by the Republicans in the past. So I had every reason to believe that we could somehow pull it off. But I overestimated the power of the anti-establishment Bernie baby crowd and whatnot. Their presence kept us from getting over the top. I mean, I knew what Fox was doing. I knew they were all in for Trump. I knew that because he had a fucking R by his name, the people who registered to vote with the R's by their name were gonna fucking turn out because that's what they do. Like fucking clockwork every goddamn time. But I knew there was a lot of people who didn't want their daughters to grow up in a world where we had to say that Trump became president. I knew there was a lot of people who didn't want to go from Obama to a fucking white Osama. Because far-right chauvinist terrorists are far-right chauvinist terrorists, no matter what religion they say they have. If neither one actually follows it, all they are is far-right chauvinist terrorists. Isn't that something? Nine, 11, 11, 9. Racketeering. Racketeering, racketeering. Cyber terrorism. And don't forget the Russian collusion. Racketeering, racketeering. And don't forget the psychological warfare. Racketeering, racketeering. Aid and comfort to enemies. Aid and comfort to enemies. See, it actually doesn't say during a time of war. You know? It's implied by saying enemy. But you know, when someone's committing an act of war, do you have to have a declaration of war for the implication of them being our enemy to apply? Especially when that particular act of war is the fucking thing that you're helping with. Oh. It's treason. And although I know it's simply taboo, I've got a trump on a string, sitting on a gallows. I've got that string around my finger. Joey's gonna be singing that all day in his head. Okay. Physically fit. Physically fit. Physically fit. Why does that alarm go off? Why do I even need that alarm? Why? Hammer time. So, anyways. I have completely lost track of what the hell I was saying. I think you get the point, though. I have my coffee cup there. It's a coffee cup. It's a cup that has coffee in it. Yeah. Kind of hurting my neck trying to stay in frame with it. Yes, Mr. Conway, some Republican dumbass apparently did yet again, call another fellow human being a monkey. Human beings aren't monkeys. Does that sound like brainwashing to you? And by all biblical theories, quote-unquote African Americans, or properly termed, according to my brainwashing, Maorians, they're human beings. Well, that depends on how smart you are. But, as Mr. Conway was saying, and I was attempting to elaborate on, a congressional Republican, was it? I'd seen the fucking story. I just tried to roll my eyes and move on when I see shit like that these days, you know? Like, I don't got time to cover that. Like, or at least dwell on it. If y'all want to talk about it, I'll talk about it. But, DeSantis. Was he a candidate? Is that the guy that lost that race recently? Oh, I don't want to see the 9-minute response video. But anyways, if you can't tell the difference between a human being with a different molecular content in their skin cells and some sort of, simian or ape, perhaps you shouldn't be involved with government. Dingo. Stop licking your balls. See? That's a dog. I don't confuse him with any sort of human being. But I don't recommend that he should be in government either. He's too cute for government. Especially with his new kitten friend. They are best friends. It is amazing. How was Jesus... Okay, who is this guy Jesus you speak of? I've never met anybody named Jesus who was a baby killer. I was almost going to participate in the ignorance and pretend that the word Jesus was the name of somebody. But no, I'd rather not. I know there's a baby killer named Vladimir Putin that the world should be very concerned with. And there's a person who likes to house baby smugglers named Donald Trump. But no, see, you've got all that wrong. Yeshua is a propaganda episode that existed between the 1890s and the about 1990s, in which people who came from the Far East, claiming to be Jewish when they were actually Russian intelligence agents, basically, Horde intelligence agents to be more proper, tried to equate, as I was saying in the beginning of the video, the tetragrammation with the name Yeshua, which actually is the word Joshua. So, actually refers to somebody completely different. Okay? Joshua, son of Joseph. Right? Coat with many colors, Joseph. Different Joseph. See? But they overlaid that to cover up the existence of the goddess who was incarnate as John the Baptist's wife, which is why you come to me talking this name Jesus. And I say, ¿Por qué? I do not know where Jesus is. Okay. As far as Yahweh, that's the god of war. He was my stepson, and one point. My actual son of a sword. But Jehovah is the way you're pronouncing that word. It's Jacob. He who wrestled against God and won. Who's Lord and Savior? I have no master. Thank you. All you've done is proven once again that you're incapable of nothing but nonsense and stupidity on a different screen name. Again, if you'd like to learn about what reality is, the answers have been given. If you'd rather proceed repeating to yourself the lies of confirmed morons, by all means, mock my words. You might confuse me with someone who's come to condemn a specific group. No, I've come to redeem you all. But, nobody alive this day was aware of the level of deception that they were born into. Does that make sense? Now, what you got to understand about the early books of the Bible, and I'll get back into attempting to disambiguate them. Once whatever it is that's coming fucking hurries up and comes. But, suffice to say, there's a lot of stories that are sort of told and then retold on top of themselves. And, one of them is the creation story. And basically a way to spot these types of phenomena in Scripture, basically put there by rebels of the old true faith, not these fucking morons that you seem to hate, that I also don't really fucking like, okay? You're no better than them, though, just so you know, because of the way you're acting. No better at all. In fact, the argument could be made very easily a lot worse. A lot worse. That's something you need to think about, though. But, the few people that were left in secret about 350, 400 years ago, when you get the consolidation of this translation that we have here called the King James Bible, managed to encode things into this subjugative text. The best way to refer to this is a subjugative text. Okay? And the thing is, what you had was a matriarchal society surrendering militarily and politically to a chauvinistic society. And that's why you have this bullshit version of the Bible. Because for 500 years at that point, the bullshitters teamed up with our enemies to keep themselves safe and murdered everyone who knew any better. Now, as I explained in the beginning of this video, since I've already explained what Yeshua and Jehovah actually mean, the word Jesus is Gaelic for I am. Now, it's funny how it seems to be a bunch of neo-Nazis who have ganged up on me for, what, being living proof that Jesus was a white man? I should probably give a lecture on the difference between white power and white pride. Kind of like black power and black pride. Gay power, gay pride. Gay pride's okay. Gay power sounds kind of weird, doesn't it? Black pride, fucking fine with me. Black power? I know what you're picturing, the fucking berets and the shotgun. Yeah, me too. Thing is with white pride versus white power is that nobody knows the difference. And that's the fault of white people. And, you know how I have a plan for everything? I got a plan for that too. Salt and pepper, baby. Salt and fucking pepper. Now, what's kind of sad in that is that in false identifying ourselves as a color that we are not. See, that's the color white, and that's the color that I am, and, you know, I don't sun much. I'm pretty fucking pale. We have lost our individual cultures, our actual cultures, through no fault of our own. The difference between us and this misnomenclature that we call white and the black people that live here in America is that they lost their culture identity because of us. Now, the most annoying, tragic thing that could possibly happen to these people is that they should convert to the religion of the people that sold them to us, which is Islam. The way to rebel from, you know, people who aren't acting like Christians should be to act like Christians, not to become Muslims when it was the Muslims that sold the Christians the slaves. In fact, a large number of them were brought here on Muslim ships. So I just don't think it's proper. I think it's a failure of those who should be the cultural leaders, being the founders of this country, that we should allow ourselves to be seen as so hypocritical, apathetic, and unwise that they should convert to the religion of their captors who sold them in bondage to not us, but actually the Confederacy. Oh, and look, speaking too much truth, and we're back down to 0. But this is what I got to deal with. People talk about, your Lord, and we do agree, your Lord and Savior is a baby killer. Do you know what kind of a miserable little faggot you sound like when you say that shit? If you are a white person, you're a fucking embarrassment to white people. You're an embarrassment to humans in general. Anyways. Oh, did I sound angry? Anyways. Afghani Arab man whose mother is whiter than me. There are some very white fucking people in Afghanistan. I mean, the Sons of Orion, okay? We're eventually just going to have to get into that mythos because it seems the most hidden, doesn't it? Welcome back, Conway. I don't know. Went to 0 again. So, anyways, to conclude, I will first remember what the fuck I was talking about. Yeah, Orion and Arian and the secret culture that seems to have recognized me without recognizing me, that must have been involved in the Matrix movies and the Constantine movie. Maybe I should just try to contact Keanu Reeves and see if he can fucking put me in touch with somebody. I don't know. Hey, Keanu, why do you keep on starring in movies and playing, like, me-ish? Like some kind of weird romanticized version of me, but still, like, clearly meant to be me. You know, as good as Keanu Reeves could play. But Yeah. The Zodiac. I can just feel something there. Like, I used to map stars when I was a kid, right? I had a fucking telescope and everything. Had one of them books. Told you all the stories about the different constellations. Right now, I can't remember a single fucking one of them. But I'm glad we thought of it. Whoever thought of it. Because I'm trying to piece together a mythos that makes sense of my memories, and I was trying to like piece. It's like piecing together a civilization from the ashes left behind after it burned, basically. But anyways, that is going to be all of the piecing together we can do tonight. Mr. Conway, feel free to make notes about anything you like want me to start talking about in the beginning of a video, or I don't know if you can log into Patreon and actually send messages. I have kind of a limited understanding of what exactly the Patreon thing is meant for. You know, like, but if y'all start sending me messages and stuff on there, I'll download the app or something onto one of my phones. Not necessarily my phone, but on somebody's phone. I don't like installing anything on my phone. It runs very nicely. I don't want to fuck it up. Anyways. But, these little fucking notepads are pretty handy. I know you usually watch at work. Just anything you ever fucking think of. Like, while we're talking about shit here towards the end of it, because around this time I gotta go. There's nothing I can fucking do other than, like, just let it sit here with nothing for, like, half an hour. But anyways. I just don't want anything that you're interested in to go under discussed, because you've got so many valuable things to contribute. And speaking of which, wish Maximo would fucking come back around sometime soon. Oh, what the hell happened to him? It's been a while, hasn't it? Hope he's doing alright. But it's just, you know, it's not the same without him, is it? But Maximo, if you wind up seeing this, start fucking coming on and chatting with us. And maybe I'll get the motivation to add every back to the Easy Reefers channel. In fact, Max, if you're watching this, if you want to just like make some relaxing videos I'll make you the fucking Easy Reefer's planetologist person. You know, I kind of like having one channel to not talk about politics. I really wish I could just transfer everything over here and monetize both of them, but it'll be a while before I get around to being able to do any of that. Apparently I have to resurrect a computer just to be able to get to my old videos. Anyways. But, I really wish I could just find somebody who did AdWords. Like, fucking pay somebody to make that shit happen for me. Because, I'm just not going to get any kind of algorithmic recommendations at all, and get any kind of actual new viewers on this channel at all. So, oh well. I guess it just doesn't matter how much relevant problem solving that I bring to the table. The fact that I'm me and I know who I am makes me a crazy person, so people would rather just fucking destroy themselves than admit that I might not be crazy. I'm considering giving ground here, but I just can't bring myself to do it. I tried. I did try. For a little while, I tried. And just pretend to be a normal person again. And what? I happen to know all this stuff because I'm just a smarter, better human being? I would prefer to live in a world where there wasn't just a human who would be so cursed. But maybe that's just how I cope. Anyways, thanks for coping with this broadcast, y'all. Click that like button. Thanks for hanging out, Mr. Codway, Mr. Rodriguez, and whoever the fiddly fuck you are. And y'all take it easy, but don't take it all. Peace. Why? I clicked that. I clicked the right thing. Bye-bye now. You know, for some crazy guy who quote-unquote thinks he's Jesus and solves all the world problems, I happen to be a pretty good talk show host, too.
I never take it no more.